I wonder if there are members of the audience that can relate to being the black sheep in your family. You don't act like them or believe in much of the same things as they do, and your priorities take you down vastly different paths. This can be a detriment to those relationships, causing alienation from those closest to you. But it can also be just what is needed to subvert tired and outdated traditions and spell progress and prosperity for a community. Don't allow external pressures to push you towards conformity when there's so much to be done your own way. Wurt was born into the hellish swamps of the Constant as a merm girl, but instead of engaging in the day-to-day cycle of barbarism and warfare upon the pigs and basically anyone else who steps foot into the swamps, she was blessed with human-like intelligence and a knack for leadership and civic planning. With 150 health, 200 hunger, and 150 sanity, Wurt is far from the ordinary merm. With her knowledge of the inner workings of merm society and unique biology, she can conquer and establish swamp law and order within the anarchy of the Constant. My name is LimeLichen. Hop into the briny deep and wet your gills as I tell you all about how it feels to play Wurt. We begin with the passive abilities that come from a hard life in the mosquito-riddled marshes. Wurt can walk faster on marsh turf, although it doesn't stack with roads, and she's completely immune to all the negative effects of wetness. That means less heat loss, provided you have the right perk, an iron grip on slippery tools, and no sanity drain from being completely saturated. In fact, investing further down the amphibian perk tree will raise your sanity when wet, and either slowly heal you, or have your wetness meter act as an extra 50 health. Oh, we're not even 3 minutes into the video and I'm already gonna go on a tirade. First off, why do we need to invest in a perk for this? Why is it not just how Wurt operates by default? What, did Clay run out of ideas for her skill tree and just said, fuck it, put 3 points into sanity recovery before getting to the water health perks, because the idiots who play this game wouldn't care about how absurd that is? What does Clay take us for? We are not lobotomites. Clay, heed my warning. Do not make the other characters' missing skill trees as boring as this. The least they could have done was make each side longer or their own branch. All the perks are just awful anyways. The healing is too slow with Hydra's healing, Slippery Hide doesn't stop damage to your armor, and All Weather Scales doesn't seem to reduce cooling when wet nearly as much as you'd expect. When spring rolled around, I still froze my ass off, but you know what it does do? It prevents me from using my wetness to avoid overheating during summer. How does that even make sense? A fish loves water! Why wouldn't that be enough? Why even bother if the perks operate in like the exact opposite way you'd want them to? Clay, please buff! The mosquito-related perks are even worse. A talisman to walk among these putrid, pestilent, persistent parasites? A mosquito bomb that does fuck all because mosquitoes have a limited number of attacks they can perform before they just fucking explode themselves. And a merm-specific healing item. The fertilizer's pretty good, but we'll get to talking about agriculture later. The strongest ability that comes with being a merm, in my opinion, is Wurt's immunity to drowning in the ocean. Normally, if you were any other character and your boat capsizes, you would lose max health, some hunger and sanity, and half of your inventory. Wurt, on the other hand, just returns to the closest shore with all her items and no health loss, a great encouragement for ocean exploration to take advantage of some exclusive items, kelp being one such item. Raw kelp is gross to everyone else, but to Wurt, it's a delicacy, with no negative sanity effects. In fact, sea wreaths and milkmaid hats will increase her sanity, the opposite effect for everyone else. I recommend going straight to the lunar island to get some bull kelp and replant it next to your base for a quick and nourishing bite. Stone fruits are extra good as they also have reduced growth time and can be stored in chests indefinitely in their unopened state. And that isn't even the end for the ocean and its treasures. Signaled with the yellow painted sea stacks and that familiar music, the Moonquay Island holds the unnatural portal which spits out various items, namely plants like banana bushes, palm trees, saplings, and monkey tails, a renewable and movable version of reeds, which comes in handy as half of the merm recipes require reeds. If you want to grab some resources from the Moonquay without having to battle with powder monkeys, explore the ocean during the winter, as pirate raids are inactive and all the monkeys stay in their houses. All these ocean crops go from convenient fillers for pierogi to indispensable in the hands of Wurt, who is an extremely strict vegetarian. Yes, even the most violent pig hater won't stoop to their level and eat her enemies. She'll also reject any leafy meat, which I guess makes sense if Wigfrid is willing to eat it. She loves the other animals though, especially fish, which restore her sanity when they're alive in her inventory and take sanity when they die. They can be used in combination with a hat to completely negate nighttime sanity loss. Frogs are also neutral to her, so she's free to fish during the day in the frog pond set pieces with zero repercussions. Meat is far more common than I initially thought in this game, so the setup for a sustainable plant-based food source is non-negotiable. Even eggs count as meat, so say goodbye to the breakfast skillet if you were hoping to make that instead of pierogies. Butterfly wings and their butter strangely don't count as meat items, so you could substitute the hole in your healing food repertoire with butter muffins and waffles. Weird how when waffles need eggs, she's willing to eat it, but other egg dishes are off limits. But once again, I didn't design this game, I just play it. You won't miss meat too much, even if it is easier to obtain as every animal that dies drops some form of meat. Wurt gets a 33% bonus hunger restoration from plant-based dishes, so ratatouille becomes somewhat worthwhile. Dragon pies also become far more relevant, being among the highest healing vegetarian crockpot dishes in the game, aside from like mandrake soup, but who's actually cooking their mandrakes? In all seriousness, you might hardly ever touch a crockpot as Wurt. Cooked and plain vegetables like potatoes, toma roots, and pumpkins restore plenty of hunger and health without any additives. A birdcage is pointless if you just take care of your crops because they'll drop plenty of seeds for you to replant anyways. On that note, you can make an endless supply of food by planting 2 complementary crops next to each other. Toma roots and dragon fruits are among those combos. Planting them in spring or summer and sprinkling some Glommer's goop or that aforementioned fertilizer, which actually restores double the nutrients that Glommer's goop does, will have you reaping dividends in giant crops in no time flat. I hardly ever went hungry during my playthrough. In fact, I had too much food and had to wrap it up to not waste it. That bird's place is looking even more like a waste as eggs can't be used to obtain gold, as Wurt will flat out refuse to trade with the Pig King, asserting that he is no royal. Who needs those dirty swine? Merms fill all the roles that pigs do for other characters, but in a far superior way. She can build up merm houses and raise armies to do her bidding. All she needs is some vegetables, as all merms are apparently just as principled as her when it comes to abstinence from meat. Once you have your kelp farm set up, you can take the community feeder perks 1 and 2 to recruit a whole company at once, lasting for a day unless you keep feeding them. Merms can fight for you or do all of your yard work. The industrious merm perks 1 and 2 let you build tool sheds to increase their efficiency and even dig out stumps, detritus, and till the ground for you. The worker merms are probably my favorite because who wants to do all that shit themselves? You can also erect merm fortifications to spawn loyal merm guards which have 100 more health and deal 10 extra damage than the regular ones, but that is only with their king alive. Their upgrades come in the hard-headed perks, which grant them helmets with 30% and 50% damage resistance respectively. Only crafts merms can use tools, and only merm guards can use helmets. Whether you want to use one or the other or both is a matter of how you invest your skills. I picked up both, having one group of merms slaving away in the logging industry to farm tree guards, and merm guards with superfluous helmets throwing their lives away to kill bosses and affirm merm supremacy. Killing Bee Queen, for example, was a piece of cake, requiring no more than 12 merm guards and some patience. If you had even more, you could just sit back and not even touch the queen, as merm guards are also immune to her screeching. Taking the affinity perks adds a whole nother factor of crazy. With the Lunar Mutation perk, you can embed Moonglass into your subjects, there's no way that doesn't hurt, and allow them to be strengthened with Pure Brilliance. The better choice for me was the Shadow Resurrection perk, which upon the death of a merm will revive them as a Shadow Merm who will continue to work and fight for you, effectively doubling their health, and can again allow them to be strengthened, this time with Pure Horror. Wurt and the merms will also receive extra planar damage against the opposite alignment. Which one you prefer comes down to which mobs you're likely to come into contact with more often, and whether or not you prefer to be resistant to or deal more damage against a certain alignment. You'll also get a Mudslinger on each side, which will increase the respective merm's power within a 7-tile radius, lasting 2 minutes. It doesn't work everywhere though. The Fuel Weaver Arena is a prime example. I fought the shadow pieces on stream. By the way, remember to subscribe so you can see me live in the making of these videos, and I had over-prepared for it with like a stack of cactus and toma roots. It didn't matter in the end though. I didn't even notice when the rook died. That's how powerful the merms become, and that's not even including the king's perks. Ancient Fuel Weaver later was super quick to die too. Getting the merms inside the arena was a challenge in and of itself. Come through the gate! Come through the gate! Okay, all but 2 of you came in, that's fine. So some form of cheese and trickery was necessary for the setup. Even then it was hard fought, but the fish came out on top. Now, with all those false rulers deposed, we can establish our own state of merm sovereignty. With the DIY royalty kit, Wurt has the power as the merm goddess to ordain a merm king. Taking 15 wool, 20 kelp, and 10 pigskin, a random craftsmerm will sit upon the throne and wait for tribute. Once he's fattened up, Wurt gets a substantial power-up of 100 extra health and 50 extra hunger and sanity. Every other merm in the constant, on the surface and the caves, along with also being powered up, will turn docile and neutral to every other creature, calming their violent tendencies and civilizing them. If so desired, you could invest in King's upgrade quest perks for further improvement of your Mermguard's training. Giving the king a marble suit, a Thulsite crown, and a strident trident will give loyal Mermguards more defense, more damage, and the ability to dodge incoming attacks. The king must be fed vegetables periodically to keep him alive, and therefore keep his bonuses. Grabbing the sated Sovereign perks can decrease his metabolism and therefore the time in between feeding sessions. He acts as Wurt's replacement for the Pig King, although the way his trading works is a little different. He can't be given trinkets for gold, instead you must go fishing to please your king. Presenting him with freshwater fish of any kind will net you some seeds, kelp, cut reeds, and tentacle spots. They must be alive though. I don't know what he's doing with live fish, but whatever the case may be, it's what the king wants. Saltwater fish are even more valuable. Depending on their weight, in addition to a few nuggets of gold, you'll also receive even more seeds to use as bait, and various trinkets that can be used as tackles, like a drain bung as a bobber, and a spork as a lure. Yet another reason you'll be out on the sea a lot is Wurt. I had no qualms about having to work a bit harder for some gold. The fishing gameplay is kind of relaxing, a nice change of pace from all the things trying to kill you. Except for hounds, and pirates, and narwhal, and cookie cutters. Maybe it's not always as calm as the waves. If you want to catch some fish without dealing with long reel times and the prospect of losing your tackle when you inevitably run into some trouble, craft some trawler kits and place them in deep or semi-deep waters for regular 4 fish every few days. I'd remember to check on them as sometimes the net can come loose and you lose all your fishy captives. What comes to mind about Wurt's gameplay is just Weber with fish. They are similar, creating empires from otherwise hostile creatures, much to the chagrin of their human partners. But Wurt's prospects with her amphibians are far superior to those arachnids, even if they share the same weakness to AoE attacks. Merms can actually provide value outside of their bodies as meat, and they are smarter so they stay alive longer to sustain the punishment. They fill every role that other characters do too. Wormwood comes to mind as a good synergy, but if you have craftsmerms with improved tools, you can save on time with tilling the ground, and the ability to craft fertilizer precludes the need for Wormwood's expertise in that area. The monkey tail creation is still good for populating your new swamp territory with the renewable reeds, which are required for half of Wurt's crafting tab. The craftsmerms also put characters like Woody and Maxwell to shame as they can work harder for way less pay. Wickerbottom's Angler Survival Guide can make fishing easier as you won't need to wait for them to surface. On Tentacles is pretty redundant though, as it seems you have better chances getting tentacle spots from the Merm King than you do when killing them. You could still read her books for some sanity bonuses or penalties, but Wurt lacks the ability to cast the spells. If you're worried about incorporating a Merm village close to your friends, fear not, as the king keeps everyone in line and non-Wurt characters can walk among them without prejudice. And if you don't have a king up yet, or he dies, what are you doing? Go get one! You can just craft a disguise for all your air-breathing buddies. When describing how it feels to play Wurt, I only have one word that comes to mind. Bliss. It's no wonder that Wurt is locked behind a $6 paywall. Every playthrough would be impossibly and unbelievably easy, whether it's decimating a once-feared enemy to feeding and supplying whole nations. There doesn't seem to be anything Wurt can't do. If you don't own her, I'll tell you here and now, she's totally worth it. Buy her and find out how it feels to play Wurt. Thank you so much for watching, especially to my YouTube members, Tyrachnid and Governor. Remember to vote in the next character poll if there's someone you really want to see done. And stay tuned for those weekend streams. I play other games than just DST. I'll see you there, and remember, stay sour.